can we have a hands-on Christmas and engage our kids and all of our family members to be immersed in this season like never before? That's the topic that we're going to address today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager, and today I have a dear friend. I am so excited to have her on the show today. She's such a delight. Her name is Julie Lavender, and she's a prolific author and journalist with a master's degree in early childhood education. Plus, she has tremendous experience as an educator and a homeschooling parent. She's here and she's going to share with us how to immerse your kids the way she has, and a little bit about her brand new adorable book, Gingerbread House, which does just that very thing for your family as well. Welcome, Julie. I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
I am so glad to be here. Thank you, Tina.
So, Julie, tell us why it's important for kids to be hands-on in order to get a message really deep in their minds and in their souls.
You know, at Christmas time, like any time really, we can get so busy as family, as parents. But Christmas time especially, we just seem to really get busy. And if we're not careful and we don't get them involved with us, we wind up keeping them busy while we go do our grocery shopping, or keeping them busy while we wrap our presents, or putting them in another room while we're trying to wrap their gifts or whatever, or baking. We would think it's more of a time when families will be together, but instead it's just the opposite. So we have to be real careful and be intentional to keep our kids with us doing some fun activities, even if it means maybe skipping that extra dessert that you really wanted to bake, if it means spending more time with your child.
Oh, that's so important, Julie. I'm so glad you pointed that out because it is more important for our kids to be nourished in their minds and their spirits than it is to have that special dessert, isn't it? So tell us, what are some of the things that you have done as a parent that really were meaningful that your kids remember now that they're grown up?
My husband was in the military, so we lived in different places and we had to move around a lot. But sometimes we would get to go home to our family back in Statesboro, where we now live. But one of the things that we always tried to do, even if we had an artificial tree that we actually decorated, we usually went on my parents' farm and cut down a real tree. And usually it was just a small one. Most of the time, it was kind of a scraggly one that was growing too close to another one because we didn't want to waste a beautiful Christmas tree. So a lot of times we found a scraggly one to cut down and bring it home. And sometimes we just put it on the porch and just kept it watered so we could just get that smell. Because, you know, there's nothing like some of the scents and smells of Christmas. So cutting our own Christmas tree was one of the fun things that we did. When we didn't live close enough to do that, we would try to go to, find a Christmas tree farm and actually do that. And because sometimes they had extra activities. We also tried to find time to join a church group or a neighborhood group to do some Christmas caroling. And that was fun. And I don't know if people do that often anymore. We were kind of able to do that on base some, but we tried to do that with our friends. And we always ended it with hot chocolate. We had little special things that had to go with them and my children got to the point where they couldn't have one without the other. So after Christmas caroling on a cold night, we would make sure that we had hot chocolate. We do s'mores. We always try to do s'mores at Christmas time at some time because, you just think about it being cold at Christmas. And so and now in South Georgia, sometimes we have kind of a warm fire, but we still do that because that's meaningful to our kids. We've done gingerbread houses. We try to do those. And I try to find something different each year, whether it's a gingerbread house or a gingerbread train. We've done gingerbread nativity. Those are so much fun. And we just kind of created our own idea for that. And we did it in pieces. We would do it all the way leading up to Christmas. And we would fashion, Mary and Joseph and Jesus, baby Jesus at the end. And we would do the wise men towards the end. So we did a Christmas nativity scene. We, of course, always read the Christmas story. And some of these are so fun because my children are adults now. With two of my two girls are married and have children of their own, but they still want these same traditions. They still want they still want their daddy to read the Christmas story on Christmas Eve, and I think that is so important. We've wrapped presents together, and the way I immersed my kids with that is a lot of times we made our own wrapping paper. In that, I would buy that brown wrapping paper, I guess. And we would either do handprints on it. You can go online and find the gorgeous Christmas things where you either stick your feet in paint or stick your hands in paint to make a Christmas tree or something like that. So we would make our own paper to wrap with, and that was really special to the kids. We also tried to, there were, when my husband's in the military, sometimes we wrote letters to military members that were overseas. You can find stuff like that online. So we tried to also not just make it be all about ourselves, but make it be about somebody else. One of the things we did with that was write those letters to the servicemen and women. We also made cookies for a women's shelter one year, and we did that specifically at Christmas time. So I tried to get them not just thinking about themselves and us as a family. We love our traditions as far as that goes, but we also tried to reach out and do some other things like that. And that sounds like a lot of stuff, but you know what? If you plan ahead, and there were times I had to stay up late at night to be able to get some of those things done, but they were important enough for me to immerse the kids that way, so that if I stayed up late that night, then we were prepared the next day to bake those cookies to deliver to neighbors or friends or a women's shelter, something like that.
And that's really the meaning of Christmas is giving, giving of yourself, giving of your time the way Jesus gave of himself by coming to be the savior of the world in a time when his family really didn't have anything. I mean, they really didn't have a place to live or anything like that. So you are helping your kids with these hands-on activities, which is different for a kid than just telling them a story or teaching them a lesson. Talk as an early childhood educator about what the difference is between doing something and simply hearing a teaching.
You know what? There's so little children, of course, learn not just, well, some of them are auditory learners, but not all of them. Some of them are visual learners, some of them are auditory learners, some of them are kinesthetic learners. And the thing is, we don't really know that. I remember from when I did teach little ones, I might not know until the middle or the end of the school year how a particular child learned best. So my philosophy is try to get every bit of that learning in there so that they're going to catch it somehow. And whatever we did, I tried to make it as sensory as possible. You know, if we were building these gingerbread houses, then they're getting their hands involved in it. We're reading the recipe together, so I'm reading it out loud to them. I show them the pictures. Okay, here's the next step. And so I try to get all those things in so that they can, because we do want them to catch it every way possible. I loved collecting nativity sets. Not they didn't have to be expensive ones because I wanted my children to be able to. And so one of them was like a little Tikes or one of the little plastic things. Some of them were little stuffed dolls. And I always put several of those out so that the little ones could play with the ones that were not breakable. And they loved moving it around and acting out the story. So we had read the story to them, but then they acted out the story. And then we just left it out for them to play with throughout the whole entire season, because I did want them to absorb everything possible about the Christmas story. Like you said, not just from hearing it, but in other ways as well.
Because those experiences are more memorable than simply hearing or seeing. Even if you're a visual or an auditory learner, what you do and what you smell actually goes deeper into your mind and stays there longer. So it makes more of an impact when your kids are involved. And you're wrapping it in sweetness, you're wrapping it in fun and play. And that also is something that really engages different parts of the brain. So this is really very effective at communicating charity, at communicating the message of Jesus at Christmas to your families. Can you talk about some of the things that really are important elements other than making it multisensory when you're bringing your kids into those experiences? How do you interact with your kids while you're doing that? Are you going to make sure it's perfect? Are you going to give a lot of grace? How do you do that?
Definitely a lot of grace. In fact, looking for the I'm looking for the gingerbread house that my grandson made this because the ones that I have out have been here since last Christmas. We haven't made our new ones yet, but we definitely give grace. I definitely gave grace with my little ones, and some of my kids were more perfectionist than others. I've got one son who he was always the first one finished. Another one, he's usually the last one finished, and his is very symmetrical. So much so that when my kids were high schoolers, I know we were talking about little ones, but when my kids were high schoolers, one of the funnest things they liked to do was after we'd made our gingerbread houses, and sometimes they were kind of humoring the mom because they knew that was important to me. And, maybe 15, 16-year-old didn't think that was the most fun thing to do, was to make gingerbread houses with their mom, but they knew how much I loved it. They knew it was a tradition. Well, their favorite thing after the fact was when they had some of their friends over for whatever reason, whether it was Christmas or they just came over to play cards or watch a movie or whatever, they wouldn't tell them which house was theirs. And they loved to guess, because these friends were such dear friends and knew my children so well and knew their personalities. They liked nothing better than trying to guess. Okay, so Jeremy made this one. Jim Daniel made this one. This one has to be Jessica's. This has to be Jennifer's. And they had the most fun doing that. And I just spoke to one of those teenagers recently, and it happened to be about my new book. But she said some of her fondest memories were coming to our house and trying to guess who made the gingerbread houses. But we didn't expect perfection. And so when my grandson wanted to wrap the licorice all the way around the house, and I'm thinking, how's this going to stay? And, it's not going to be symmetrical, whatever. We did it. We did it exactly how he wanted to do it. It was his creation. The same thing with my kids. I let them do it their way. You can, when I used to teach school, you can get caught up in the habit of everybody's picture looks the same at the very end of the day. But for example, when I would do gingerbread way back when I taught school, yes, we worked shapes into it. So I might say, okay, let's draw a square at the bottom. That's going to be your house. Put a triangle on for the roof. Let's do a rectangle for a door. Let's have 2 circles for windows. So we talked about shapes. I made sure they could listen and follow directions. But then when everybody's house looked the same at that point, then it was creativity after that. I had out scraps of paper, I had markers, I had crayons. Then it was time for them to embellish their house exactly how they wanted to let it be completely creative and to let them own their craft.
I love how that aligns with the way God sees us as individuals uniquely precious to Him. So that's a wonderful lesson for your children and your families. I know that you have so much more to share in a gingerbread house and in all of the things that you share for families through your work as a prolific author and as a speaker. Can you share how people can stay connected with you and get a copy of your brand new book?
Yes, I would love to. So I have a website. It's julielavenderwrites.com. I'll admit I'm not as active on it as I am on Facebook. I'm Julie Lavender on Facebook, and I also have an Instagram. I think that one's probably Julie Lavender Writes, but the Facebook is Julie Lavender. I love to talk to other people, homeschoolers, moms, teachers, gingerbread lovers. I just love staying in touch that way. And my new picture book, I happen to have a copy right here. So a gingerbread house, that is available through my publisher, In-Game Press, or it's available on Amazon. I think it can be ordered from places like Barnes and Noble, but that I'm not exactly sure about. But I do know In-Game Press and Amazon.
I hope that all of you listening were inspired to make more of a hands on holiday for your family this Christmas. And I also hope that you will check out Julie Lavender's new book, The Gingerbread House. And of course, I also hope that you come back for the next episode of Flourishment.